What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and to continue my brand new series of Studio Ghibli reviews, I'm here to let you know that Only Yesterday is no perfect movie. And Only Yesterday is about a 27-year-old woman named Taiko, played by Daisy Ridley, who goes on vacation to work in the countryside picking safflowers because she grew up in the suburbs. She didn't really get to do that many outdoor activities. She loves to work with her hands. And over the course of this summer, she starts to connect with this man named Toshio, played by Dev Patel, who has a very keen interest in farming and agriculture. And as they're getting to know each other, she reminisces about her times in 5th grade where she really came into her own as a person. And in those flashbacks, Taiko was played by Alison Fernandez. And fun little fact, Only Yesterday was the movie that I made my last written review and first video review of. As you can imagine, my first video review was, it was shit. It's like watching an older Chris Stuckman review from the early 2000s where he's sitting on his bed, not maintaining eye contact with the camera, kind of whispering as he's trying to collect his thoughts and cutting every time he makes a pause as opposed to stretching out his thoughts and feelings for as long as you could go, which is exactly what I did. I always looked at the screen of my iPad as opposed to looking at the actual camera lens because I knew for the first few months that I was going to look completely brain dead looking at the camera, and I thought that I wasn't ready to do it, but I was ready to express myself on camera. So not a very good mindset to have, but if you do want to check out what I was like 4 years ago, I don't recommend it, but the link for it is in the description below anyways. Have fun and go at your own risk. But weirdly enough, I don't really have a ton of nostalgic value for it as a movie. My thoughts and feelings haven't really changed, but the entertainment value has gone down a little bit. But just for the sake of it, I'm going to stick with the positives as per usual. For starters, it goes without saying, it's a Studio Ghibli movie. The animation is going to look breathtaking. It has a lot of similar but different qualities of a standard Ghibli film at the exact same time. The character designs look the same. The settings and locations and the emphasis on how beautiful nature is captured perfectly. It looks bright, it looks colorful. The countryside looks almost as if someone actually sketched out a real-life setting. And what was so interesting about it was as these two characters were taking a tour around Japan, seeing so many spots that are just open space and thinking, humanity hasn't touched it yet, which is why it's perfect. And then Toshio just goes, actually, a lot of farmers, a lot of agriculture experts have worked their magic here, and without them, it wouldn't look as beautiful as it does right now. So it really does add to the storytelling of it. And as for the flashback sequences, the thing that really sticks out is that there are a lot of backgrounds that seem almost translucent and kind of blurry, because when we imagine something from our past, we don't get every single detail down perfectly, and we only really focus on the people in those memories. So it really does capture the almost dreamlike atmosphere of flashing back to your past, trying to remember every single detail as possible and never getting it 100% right, but focusing more on the things you've learned or the hardships that you went through, which is exactly what our main character does. And weirdly enough, through the animated expressions on the characters, Isao Takahata showed that he was actually pretty good at visual comedy. He knew how to exaggerate someone's face, like turning it purely red or having blue lines go all over their eyes whenever a character is completely embarrassed. Or there's one sequence in particular where they try a pineapple for the first time. Taiko's family tries it for basically just because she was curious and kept begging them for it. And when they bite into it, they hold for so long just to like taste it. And it keeps cutting back and forth from each character. And each cut goes longer and longer, and you just laugh because it's such a stupid scenario, but they're taking it so seriously. There is one problem that I have with the animation, and it's more of a present-day thing, and it's something that you get used to along the way. In order to make the expressions look a lot more realistic in the real world, now that Taiko's a grown adult, they have their cheekbones magically appear whenever a character is smiling or blushing about an embarrassing situation, and it made the characters look a lot older than they were supposed to. They looked like wrinkles. Now, as for the voice acting in this movie, I have seen the Japanese version, and it is good, but it's a Kiki's Delivery Service type of thing where I felt like the actors sounded kind of generic. with the English G-Kids dub that I saw in theaters, what was so interesting about it was that, like most good English dubs, they took actors who weren't really known for voice acting and weren't really that expressive in terms of delivering cartoonish voices, but they still brought something honest and genuine and natural to their performances. Daisy Ridley especially, she had only been known for Star Wars. I don't think any other movie of hers had been released up to this point, and it was such a surprise seeing her portray a character with an American accent so flawlessly. She doesn't do the Anna Paquin thing in Castle in the Sky where her accents kind of dwindle halfway throughout the entire film. And she's so quiet and subdued as she's providing the majority of the narration for the movie. And listening to it, I actually thought that she could kind of be a good Terrence Malick narrator because she whispers in a way that sounds very poetic but not too pretentious. A lot of people are going to say that her soft-spokenness kind of makes her sound dry and underwhelming, and that could very well be the case. But with all the flashbacks where Taiko is very loud, high-pitched, and rebellious, and seeing her as an adult be so humble and kind of embarrassed in the slightest situations, her soft-spoken voice really goes to show how much she's learned in between these two timelines as a person. So I think it really matches the character very nicely. And as for Dev Patel as Toshio, his voice really does match the character design so well that I can't imagine veteran voice actors who are only known for stuff like this taking on such a character, because he starts off as that goofy, insecure guy who never knows what to say whenever he's alone with a woman, but as the two of them, as Taiko and Toshio spend a great deal of time together, he becomes a lot more open about himself and the thoughts and feelings he has towards farming, agriculture, or some of the memories that Taiko shares with him as she's struggling to find out why she's remembering all these things about 5th grade in particular and what it really has to do with picking safflower fields or getting to know him as a person. Alison Fernandez as younger Taiko was a bit of a mixed bag for me because she has an incredibly high-pitched voice. There are so many sequences where she has to shout incredibly loudly towards her family members, towards her friends in school. I thought she was incredibly ungrateful and rebellious without much purpose, and whenever her family members would have something to congratulate her on, like her acting in a school play or the essays that she's really good at, they'll find something so simple and mundane like the fact that she doesn't eat her pickled red onions, and then all of a sudden they act so cold towards her. And I thought, you're all dicks. Why am I supposed to care about any of you? I don't remember feeling so bitter as I was sitting in the theater. And then it really hit me. Taiko as a kid really didn't get the freedom to make as many choices as she could have or should have as a child, especially around her incredibly obnoxious and sexist father. They don't flat out say it, but he has this continuous dry, uncaring attitude towards everyone in his life. As soon as he tries to stop a conversation that he doesn't want to take part of, he just goes, we're not having this conversation. Now dinner. Dude was a dick, and it became very clear to me that the reason for that is he doesn't have any sons and supposedly is incredibly bitter about not having one. They never flat out say it, but his sexism and the fact that he feels, since I think he's the only working parent in the family, that in his mind he does all the hard work. He's the one who goes through the most suffering and feels as if every single woman in his household owes him something, even though technically they're all suffering and they don't owe him a damn thing. And as an adult, it becomes clear to Taiko as she's reminiscing about why 5th grade mattered so much to her that she didn't feel she took as many chances. She wasn't rebellious about the things that she wanted most in life. After she acted in a school play, she wanted to do more, but her father was so convinced that she would get wrapped up in show business that he completely forbade it. And she ranted on to her mother about how it's not fair, not really to him. And she starts to realize she kind of took it out on the wrong people. And I think the other big thing is, as an adult, Taiko really feels like she's not really taking that many chances in her own life, and she's starting to repeat herself as a child, because when she's given the chance to stay in the countryside and have a normal life amongst these people, she feels incredibly afraid and embarrassed that anyone would ask her that, because she feels as if she has to go back to suburban life working in an office just because she was kind of taught in life that everyone goes through suffering and you have to accept the hand that you're dealt with, as opposed to trying harder and harder to make certain choices for yourself. Because there are times where we do go through suffering and we have to just accept it. But she's accepted it so much that whenever anyone offers her something that seems too good to be true, she feels as if she goes through it, she's going to be let down and disappointed. But she realizes over the course of the movie that she's not going to know that for sure unless she takes those risks. If she's willing to let the people in the countryside be a part of her life, especially Toshio. Now, that being said, there are a few problems that have grown on me since rewatching the movie. The pacing especially felt a lot longer than it did the first time I saw the movie. There's more of a focus at the beginning about life as a fifth grader than there is life as an adult, and I felt like life as an adult was a lot more interesting because Taiko was so insightful as she was reflecting on her past and pointing out that she's being a little hypocritical about the stuff that she's reminiscing. She claims that she's learned her lesson, but she soon discovers that she really is repeating herself over and over again. But those scenes felt a little too long. There are some art house moments where she, as a kid, talks to a boy and it starts off awkward, but it goes very well in the end. And then the scene ends with her like running for joy and then flying into the air. And it's not like those scenes are bad, and there are a few of those. There are a couple where older Taiko is like physically contacted by younger Taiko to take a chance on something. There are art house moments like that they're not bad. It's just they abruptly enter and exit without much of a transition, and it really just comes out of the blue. The other big issue is kind of a culture thing. It has to do with Japan's view of marriage. I've seen it in other anime movies like Whisper of the Heart, The Wind Rises, or shows like Paranoia Agent, where characters don't really know a person, but they agree to enter marriage, that I completely do not understand. But I don't know everything about Japanese culture. There might be something I'm missing for characters to try and justify it, but I still disagree with it. I still don't think it makes sense. And it ruined part of the climax when one character, who's so surprised when Taiko really doesn't want to go through it, and she's just like, what are you getting mad about? I'm just throwing it out there. And I'm like, fuck you, lady. You're completely taking the choice away from her. Now, to her credit, the choice that Taiko makes about this is 100% hers, and it doesn't really ruin anything. But weirdly enough, it's not until the end credits where we actually find out the actual ending of the movie, because that decision that somebody asked her plays into it. And you think you see the ending when she goes on a train, and then all of a sudden, the end credits, we get this incredibly cliched romance ending that I don't want to spoil, but it just seems so random. And that's kind of the thing about this movie. It goes randomly from childhood to adulthood, from reality to art house without much transition, but it's still done incredibly well. The voice acting is good, the animation is as beautiful as expected, and even though the themes aren't as well executed as they could have been, they're still really good on their own. And for all those reasons, I'm going to give Only Yesterday a 3.5 out of 5. Guys, thanks as always for watching. I know this one was a lot longer than anticipated. Part of it was because I thought with the written review that I had and the video review that I had and rewatching this movie that I would have my thoughts and feelings completely down like that, but that would not be the case. I guess I'm reminiscing about how I fucked up the first time and how I'm fucking up right now. Works out very nicely. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Only Yesterday. Be sure to stay tuned for more Studio Ghibli reviews and be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.